Any information or outside source, print, electronic, video, interview, etc., used in a research paper, essay, presentation, or speech that is not your own idea or creation must be cited or documented. You have to give credit to the original source. In this way, you let your reader, in most cases this will be your professor, know which words, phrases, images, and ideas are yours and which were taken from someone else. Documenting your resources provides a way for the reader to retrieve the sources you used. Your reader may be interested by the material and wish to read further, or he or she may question your use of the material and wish to look at the original source. Accurate documentation of the material will allow the reader to see if you have correctly interpreted the original source. Additionally, when you document sources, you help establish a reputation as a competent researcher and writer. Your readers will see that you have used information from credible sources. So we've gone through how to find and evaluate credible sources, and in this documenting section we're going to go through what constitutes plagiarism, copyright issues, that sort of thing, and learn to document. In this class we'll be using MLA and APA citation methods, so you'll need to know those, but I'll also go over just background of a few of the other citation styles. So intellectual property issues. Plagiarism. Presenting another person's words or ideas as your own, or not documenting them, is called plagiarism. This form of intellectual theft may range from intentional purchase of a term paper to the intentional or unintentional failure to use proper documentation in your paper. In either case, plagiarism is a serious academic offense and can lead to serious consequences. Some examples of plagiarism include taking an idea or concept from a source without citing it, using original text when paraphrasing, buying a paper from an online term paper service, hiring someone to write a paper for you, copying a friend's paper and handing it in as your own, copying and pasting from a web page into the text of a research paper without citing the source. A lot of times people don't know that they're plagiarizing, it's true. For this class, I've had a couple people actually use the abstract of the article which they are citing for their annotated bibliography and just copy and paste the abstract right into their annotated bibliography, and that is plagiarism. So if I'm an academic search complaint and I have this article up, they just, copy and paste this and they put it right in their annotated bibliography. And I know that this is a summary of the article, but you need to summarize in your own words unless you cite something. So, they left the bolded search terms up and didn't change anything at all. So, I immediately knew that it had been plagiarized. So you need to cite something like that when it's not your own words. Some things that are not plagiarism include historical facts, birthdates, death dates, locations of events, things like that. Information that can be found in numerous places undocumented and is known by many people, even if you don't know it. That's called common knowledge. Folk literature, which is popularly known and cannot be traced back to particular writers, is considered common knowledge. This would include nursery rhymes, fairy tales, any stories from the oral tradition of literature. Even if you read these things in printed form, documentation is not needed. Common sense observations, your own original thoughts, experiences, and observations, and quotes, paraphrases, or summaries that you have properly documented. I have a couple websites here for you to further explore plagiarism. My favorite one is the Magical Guide to Avoiding Plagiarism here. And this is an infographic that uses Harry Potter to explain what plagiarism and paraphrasing and all that sort of thing is. So, here's the source, and it'll tell you what you can say and whether it's plagiarism or not. It can tell you what type of the correct way to paraphrase and cite. So give that a look. It's easy to read and it's visual. And I've also got some other things. The Pensacola State College Library has a cold guide about plagiarism that you can explore, and then there's some examples of plagiarism from Princeton University, and these are hyperlinked in the PowerPoint presentation. Copyright issues, closely related to the documentation and plagiarism, but on a commercial level, is the issue of copyright protection of intellectual property. Copyright issues in the digital era are generating much more controversy than they used to. At its most basic level, copyright laws ensure that authors have exclusive rights to protect their creative efforts. There's two requirements for copyright. The item protected must be a tangible one, a work on paper, book, periodical, poem, piece of software, CD, recording, work of art, sculpture, website, audio file, web video file, web image, or something published. The other requirement is it must be creative. So like an alphabetical list of facts would not be copyrighted. Well, a creative compilation of those facts would be copyrighted. So if I put a list of all the authors I like in alphabetical order in just a Word document, that's not going to be copyrighted. But if I draw a picture with their name attached to each one, that is going to be worthy of copyright protection. So a little history on copyright. The 1976 copyright of the U.S., Title 17 U.S. Code, provides basic protection for original works of authorship. Section 106 of the copyright law gives the copyright owner the exclusive right to reproduce, distribute, perform, display, or license his or her work, or to produce or license derivative copies of his or her work. A derivative is kind of like the original, but a little bit adapted, like fan fiction and stuff like that is derivative because it sort of takes the original idea, like of Harry Potter or whatever, and alters it a little bit. As new technologies associated with the internet have evolved and distance education initiatives have been expanded, copyright laws developed in 1976 have been increasingly inadequate. In 1988, the United States amended the Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Work, an international copyright treaty. Changes brought by the Berne Convention included greater protection for copyright holders, copyright relations with other countries, and the elimination of a requirement of copyright notice on protected work. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998, or the DMCA, was signed into law by President Clinton on October 28, 1998. It attempts to protect owners of electronic copyright, but the nature of the internet and the easy way information can be duplicated and dispersed has made this a difficult task. You should consider most everything on the internet is copyright protected. A couple things that are not protected by copyright on the internet are works that lack originality, like the phone book or something like that online. Materials in the public domain, Project Gutenberg, the Camelot Project, stuff like that we saw a little bit when we explored open access materials. United States government publications, ideas, short phrases, and facts, unless the facts are presented in original work, like a list of unique facts about a certain topic, and then it could get published into like a book, like a Farmer's Almanac or something like that. And there is an exemption to copyright, and it's called fair use. It was created to allow for the educational use of copyrighted works without having to ask permission from the author. You still need to cite it to avoid plagiarism. Fair use allows you to incorporate web items into your reports, speeches, electronic presentations, and other academic creations, as long as you properly document the source. The item used is a short excerpt, and your usage does not harm the commercial value of the source. It's also considered acceptable and legal to provide a link to the website, video, or other source online. You should not reproduce the protected material, whether for commercial gain or not, unless the author expressly gives permission for the duplication of reproduction. And you'll see that on Flickr sometimes, Creative Commons licensing, things like that, they give you permission to reuse the image or whatever it is. The site, image, file, etc. does not have to display a copyright notice in order to be protected, and it does not have to be registered with a U.S. Copyright Office. So that means if something is just existing online and it doesn't say it has a copyright or anything like that, it is still protected even if they haven't filed for copyright. The default is it's copyright protected. And I have a couple links for you here to better understand copyright. The Stanford Copyright and Fair Use Center and a Fair Use Tale, which is a really good video. It's really long, so you don't have to watch the whole thing, but if you just watch the first couple minutes, it'll really give you a good idea of how fair use is used. And it uses Disney to kind of explain that. Fair use is something that we see in the library all the time. When your professor gives you, a photocopy of one chapter of a book or a chapter from a lot of different books, that's in fair use because they're using it for educational purposes, and they're using, just a little bit, a brief chapter. There is a limit on how much of a book that they can copy for you without getting in trouble. I think it's like 17% or something like that. But I'm sure that you've seen that sort of fair use all the time in your classes. So we're going to go over the more specific styles of documentation citation. You might be familiar with MLA or APA already, and we'll go over those in more detail. Those are what we're going to use for this course. But some rules apply to all documentation styles. For example, document any material you quote exactly. Follow the rules of the specific style concerning quotation marks. Keep quotations to a minimum, especially if they're long. Save quotes for text expressed in a unique way. Document any material you summarize or paraphrase. When you change the wording of an idea, it still remains intellectual property of the original author. Don't use quotation marks when paraphrasing. In the majority of your research papers, you should find that your documented sources are the ones that you've paraphrased or summarized. Do not document material that is common knowledge. If the information is known to be true, it doesn't need to be documented, even if you found it in an outside source like an encyclopedia or something like that. Even if you didn't know about it before you read about it, but it's generally known to other people. For example, you don't know what the two-letter abbreviation for the state of Florida is, and you look that up online, you don't need to document that because it's generally known to other people. If you don't know whether it's common knowledge or not, you should go ahead and document it anyway. Follow the rules of the specific style you are using regarding in-text or parenthetical references. So that's in your essay. People usually cite afterwards in the bibliography at the end of the paper, or and also in their paper in parentheses. In APA, you would include the author or authors and the year of publication, or in the case of a source with no author, the first few words of the title in quotation marks and the year of publication. In MLA, you would include the authors, or in the case of a source with no author, the first few words of the title in quotation marks. If you have accurate page numbers for either one of these, you should include those as well. Sometimes you don't have those if it's an internet source or something like that, so you would just leave it off. The goal in documenting resources is to aim for comprehensiveness. Although, for many electronic resources, you'll need to settle for citing whatever information is available. So include as much information as necessary to identify the source and allow the reader to locate it. So your goal is to help your reader find whatever it is. So more information is always better than less. You'll discover that each of your professors has a different opinion about what what should not be included in the documentation. MLA and APA can be interpreted in different ways, but we'll try to stick as close to possible as it says in the manual, and I'll go over that more in depth in a moment. So now we're going to go over citation styles. As I've been saying, MLA and APA is what is accepted for your course project and what we're going to kind of go over more in detail in this class, but I am going to just touch a little bit on all the other citation styles that are out there. So let's talk about MLA. MLA stands for the Modern Language Association of America. It was founded in 1883, so it's really old. And the purpose of it is to share scholarly findings and teaching experiences and academic trends within their subject. It's used in the humanities, and it is currently in the 7th edition. And I have cited at the bottom for you the MLA website if you wanted to check that out, learn a little bit more about MLA, and they also, I think, have some examples and links to their guidebooks, which they publish periodically every time a new edition comes out. Alright, general tips. In MLA, you call your bibliography a works cited. And then you're going to center that on the page. It should be double spaced with a hanging indent, and there's instructions on how to do that in your course project formatting folder. You're going to use the author's whole last name and the whole first name. So I always say that citation styles have personalities, and so you can kind of tell when something's in MLA because it has the whole last name and the whole first name. The MLA citation style is mostly used in English and humanitarian disciplines, so they care about the person. They have a focus on the person. So if you see the whole last name and the whole first name and nothing is abbreviated, you know that that's a humanities-based citation style, and you'll be able to know that it's MLA. Dates are written sort of military style with the date and then the month abbreviated and then the year. Unless the month is 3 letters or whatever, it gets abbreviated with a period. And you can see specifically which ones do and don't via the help guides like the Purdue OWL or the MLA style site. And for online access, you're going to format that in the same way. MLA has decided that a URL is optional now. For this class, you're definitely going to use a URL though when citing, because I just believe that really helps me follow your research faster. And here's your basic example of what a citation in MLA looks like. The author of the article comes first, and you're going to do last name, comma, first name, Doe, comma, Jane, period, unless there's more than one author, and then it's kind of going to reverse. So if you have 2 authors, it's going to be Doe, comma, Jane, and John Doe. The order gets reversed. And then if you have more than that, there'll be commas and an and in between at the end. So 3 authors would be Doe, comma, Jane, comma, John Doe, and Margaret Henderson, period. that would be how you would have 3. If there's more than 3 authors, you're going to put the name of the author listed first and then et al. After it. That's et space al. After that, you're going to have the title of the article in quotes, and after that, the title of the journal, magazine, whatever it was published in italics. The volume dot issue with the year in parentheses. So you're not going to include the word volume. If it's the first issue in the 34th volume, you're going to have 34.1 and the year it was published with a colon and the page numbers. If it's a page range, you're going to write a hyphen between them, 1 through 34 or whatever that is. And then after that, if it's accessed through a database, which yours probably will be, the name of the database should be in italics. And then you're going to put the way that you accessed it, the web if it's through a database. If it was a book or something, you would put print, period. Then you're going to put the date of access after that. In the style we just discussed, the military, with the day and numbers, the month abbreviated, and the year. Here are some sample guidelines for you. The Purdue OWL is a great source. There's everything easily understandable on their website, so I encourage you, if you have questions, to go there. And now on to APA. This is the other style that's acceptable for this class. It stands for American Psychological Association. That's who brought about the style. The copyright belongs to whatever. It was founded in 1892, and it is for social sciences, so a little less humanitarian than the humanities. It's currently in the 6th edition. Your bibliography in APA is called References, also double-spaced with hanging indent. This time, though, since it's a little less focused on humanitarian, a little less focused in the humanities, you're going to abbreviate the first initial of the author. So this time it would be Doe, J, period. Since the person is not as important in APA citation, you abbreviate that first initial. And so that kind of gives you a heads up on whether it's APA or MLA. APA a little more clinical than MLA, focused on the humanities and authors, more personable. As opposed to web, you're going to put retrieved from when you find something online, or you can also put a DOI number, a document object identifier, I believe that stands for. And if you go into Academic Search Complete, the DOI will be listed there under all the other bibliographic information, and that's to help people find your research more easily. It's a shorter number versus the retrieved from website situation. Okay, so here's 2 examples. You can see that the author's names are abbreviated with the first one, just the year in parentheses for the first one, but if it does have the month and day, you're going to include it just a little bit differently. As you can see from the one below, it has the year, comma, the month. Nothing is abbreviated there. The date is important because since they're conducting experiments and things in sociological research, the currency is more important than in the more artsy, kind of literary MLA style. The title is going to go next. The title of the article goes next. It does not have quotes, you'll notice, in this APA style. And then the title of the journal, it's going to be in italics. Next, in regards to volume, you're not going to have a period between the volume and issue, but the volume will be italicized and the issue in parentheses, comma, page number, and if there's a DOI, you'll include it after that. If it does not have a DOI, you'll put retrieved from in the name of the database with the word database after it, period, and it will not be in italics. You can notice if something's missing, like Phi Delta Kaplan does not have issue numbers, they just have volumes, so that's just skipped here. And here are some guidelines, the APA website, as well as the Purdue OWL does the citation style really well as well. Chicago style. Founded in 1891. It started with the University of Chicago Press. Around here at PSC, sometimes you have to cite in Turabian, and Chicago and Turabian are essentially the same thing, but Turabian is modified by students. Kate Turabian was a professor who adapted Chicago style for her students to more understand, and that's why it's called Turabian. It's for history, mostly social sciences too sometimes, and it is in the 16th edition. There's 2 different systems here, 2 different things your bibliography could be called. It could be a bibliography if it's the notes bibliography NB system, or it could be the author date system, which would be called references. So with the bibliography style for Chicago, you're going to have the little superscript and the footnotes on each page with the line between. So the citation goes on each page as well as in the bibliography. It's a more complicated citation style. And here's two examples in the different styles. The same citation, and you can see that they're a little bit different. I'm not going to go over these in too much detail because the ones that we really care about are MLA and APA. And here's some guidelines for you if you do eventually have to cite in one of the Chicago or Turabian styles. Alright, AMA. I think this is our last one. AMA stands for the American Medical Association, which was founded in 1847, and the first manual was published in 1962. It's for medical health and biological sciences and in the 10th edition. If you are reading like a nursing magazine or the Journal of the American Medical Association, your citations are going to be in AMA format. It's generally called references at the end, and they're numbered according to the appearance in your paper. And you'll be able to see when we get to the example on the next page, it's very clinical looking. The author's last name comes first and then initials without periods in between. It's a very brief style. You can sort of think of like the hospital. Everything is clinical, numbered, and you're in a rush, so things are like abbreviated, condensed. There's no spaces between. The citation is not double spaced, and there's no indenting. And so in AMA, similar to the other styles, the entire book or journal goes in italics. So here's a sample citation in AMA. You can see it's very brief and clinical looking, numbered, not the whole name. It's the most clinical or medical brief looking of all the citation styles. You can kind of feel that it's medical, like its personality seems brief and rushed and condensed. So you've got the author's names without the periods, a number there, and just the title of the book in italics there. Then you have the edition number, where it was printed, who by, and the year it came out. So I hope you got an idea of some of the other citation styles. Even if we're not going to use them, you might have to use them later in your research career, depending on what field you go into. So the toughest battle in knowing how to cite something is identifying what type of resource it is, and that is sometimes hard. Do you know if it's a journal or a magazine or whatever? In your e-learning, I have the two folders for MLA and APA, and this is like a citing sheet. So if you identify what type of source you have, it's print book, that's pretty easy. We won't need to do those for this class, but it's just there for you to use for another class or something like that. Ebooks, full text articles, opposing viewpoints, and Gale literary criticism are cited in a special way, just because they have material that first was printed somewhere else and then it's put online and like reorganized in a new anthology. It's collected from other places together. That's not original material to those databases. Web pages, that's probably the hardest thing to cite. And I also have a sample works cited and a whole sample paper for the in-text citations here for you to look at. Mostly you'll probably be using this full text articles from library databases to check your citation that the database provides for you under that cite button that we learned in lesson 3. So once you identify what it is, you can go ahead and come here and click on your citation sheet, and all you have to do is like copy your information into this information, or check what the database gave to you already. So we've got a couple things here. There's a journal, a magazine, a newspaper, just so you can compare what you've got to what this looks like and do it right. I've got the same thing here for APA. There's a folder, and each type of information has its own citing sheet. So all you have to do is use these. I don't expect you to memorize anything about citation. I just want you to know where to go to find the sheets. Just use these sheets to cite, and you don't have to remember anything yourself. You'll be using this for your course project, these citing sheets. You also have a brief 5-point 15-minute quiz, and I want to tell you to make sure that you have your MLA citing articles sheet for that. Print the citing articles one out and just have it. You'll need it for your course project anyway, but you do need that for the quiz. If you've got any questions, the discussion forum is posted, so you can put your questions there. And I know citation is very confusing. People ask about it at the reference desk all the time. So you can call the library reference desk. That's 484-2006, or you can ask me. You can ask the librarian at the reference desk at the college. The Writing Center is also good at citation type things. And there's also a chat service that the library, all the Florida libraries, all the Florida college libraries offer, and we've got a link to that. If you go to our webpage, library.pensacolastate.edu, under Help, it says Ask a Librarian. If you go ahead and click that, you can do instant messaging. You can have a text message sent to a librarian, or you can email, and that's a kind of more instantaneous answer and a little more anonymous if you're afraid to call up the library and ask or something like that. They'll be able to answer and help you with your citing questions here as well. All right, well, this is the last lesson, so get to work on your course project and submitting that and going over that. And again, any questions, post a discussion forum.